So, just finished watching episode 7, The Black Spot of Welcome to Derry. Jesus. I hate to say this, but a part of me is tired of Hank's ass. And I know it ain't his fault. Ingrid, that bitch. So, pretty much, we open up with more backstory on Pennywise, Ingrid's daddy, when we see him at the circus giving a show, and we see the children, we see the town interacting with it, and we see that Ingrid has always been a part of his show, whether it was helping with the records in the back, well, not the records, but the pretty much the functions of all the props. And we also learned during this time that Ingrid's mama, who was named Periwinkle, was a part of the circus as well. And they were once together at the circus, and now they kind of do these small local ones, just her and her daddy. We don't necessarily know why, but we do get a little bit of insight into how her daddy ended up becoming Pennywise. It was a little boy who had been watching him from afar. You got this eerie feeling, but also he approached him late one night when he was supposed to be getting ready for his show. And he tells him that he can't find his parents. But you hear a woman in the woods screaming, and he asks the little boy, who is that? And he says his mama. And he goes into the woods, I guess, with him to help him find his mama. But that's to his demise, because the town folk who are over the circus end up finding his handkerchief, which is full of blood. At this point, Ingrid is looking for her daddy, and they give it to her, and now she's lost her mama and her daddy. We get back to the last scene that we saw from episode 6, which is when all the white townsmen came to confront the black people at the military base. Now they walk in there with their guns, I guess ready to put folk in their place. I know it was going to have to happen, but it just pissed me off. Finally, Hank comes out the back, Ronnie screaming, "Daddy, no, Daddy, no." And Hank comes out the back. We even see Dick hollering, like, he closed his eyes like, this nigga. Because at first, the black people were able to pull their guns out, and they were like, oh, so y'all just thought y'all was just going to come in here and regulate. So they back out, only to chain the doors and set the place on fire and shoot it up with all the patrons in there. Mind you, there are children in there. There was one white woman, she got to leave because they recognized her. And they was like, get out of here, you should be ashamed. Lo and behold, a lot of people end up being murdered. It is a massacre. It really is a massacre. And just seeing that, it is like, triggering. But Ronnie, Will, Hank, and Marge, and of course Dick Halloran survive. R.I.P. to Rich. We lose Rich, damn it. We lost Rich. He pulled a jack from Titanic. Sure did. He pulled a jack from Titanic, and he found a cooler to put Marge in so she could be safe from the smoke, and he died on top. It's their love story. I was sad to see Rich because he was the spunk of the group. He was the spunk of the group. And we see that during this time, Dick Halloran is having these voices come to him. And then after everything happens, when, the spot is burnt down, we see that the people coming to him now are the soldiers who died in that fire. Like, all of their souls are like, you got to avenge this. You got to get it right. And on that same night, we see Ingrid's ass. That bitch. She's dressed up as, I guess, Periwinkle, her daddy's sidekick. And we find out that one of the men who were left there when they was trying to ride off in their cars, his car stalled out. It was Ingrid's husband. It was Ingrid's husband, Stanley. And Pennywise ends up killing Stanley in front of Ingrid and eats his brains. And we also find out that Stanley was the butcher, the meat man. Because it's on the news talking about this event. And they, of course, they don't tell the truth. They say it was an illegal colored speakeasy and everything. And all these people were killed. And now they believe that they got Hank Grogan. But Hank actually survived. This massacre also acts as the Augury, which in previous episodes we learned that the spirit comes every 27 years and there's like a mass death or mass massacre to feed it. And unfortunately, it was the black people this time that was the Augury, and lives were lost. And we see the Native American community talking about it, and they're like, well, one of the women, she's like, I hate that this happened. That all these people lost their lives and these children. And then one guy, he get up, he was like, I see y'all shit faces in another 27 years. Hank and all of them get away. Charlotte is able to get Hank to Rose because the goal and the plan is to get him and Ronnie in Canada. I'm back to Ingrid when she was in the woods while the house was the place was being burnt down. Pennywise, she's like, she wants to do good. She wants her daddy to tell her she did good. And so he says, come to Papa. Turns out that he was like, I'm about to go to sleep. Which is, I don't think she understood was the part of the Augury. So she, I guess, thought her daddy was going to take her with her. Like, bitch, what the fuck? And they go be father and daughter again. I don't know. But, be father and daughter again. I don't know. But he hugs her. And then she realized, he may look like her daddy and he may have his spirit in him, but it's not her daddy. It's the evil spirit, because he's like, I ate him. And he opens, like his head opens like this dome, and she lifts up and it like usurps her spirit. Fast forward, we get back to the military. Leroy has to come to the realization that you are always a pawn. This whole thing, you doing this to fight for your country. You want to keep going along with the process. It's like he keeps making himself believe he has to stay in this process for the end goal, only to find out that the end goal is to release Frank Shaw. All this bullshit talking about, oh, I want to save my country. He wants to release this terror onto the country to keep everybody in place and compliant. Because there's so many civil things going on. He's like, oh, I'm trying to prevent another civil war. It's the women's movement going on. I know he didn't say civil rights, but I'm pretty sure he was thinking civil rights. And so we learned that you just want everybody to be put back in their place. So if you want everything to stay the way it is prior 1962, then you don't want no real freedom for no damn body. And Leroy is going to have to come to the grips that he has played a part in unleashing this demon onto the country. Like Frank Shaw wants the rest of the country to be Derry. Have this thing lurking. Because with Dick Halloran, he sees Sesky, which was the warrior of the Native American people who are part of burying the pillars. And he gets them to find one of the pillars because he follows Sesky. He sees her. He first sees her in I guess you could say the speakeasy while everything is burning down. So they get one of the pillars. Leroy notices then that shit ain't what it's supposed to be, because they're supposed to be taking it back to, whatever's supposed to be taking it up north, to one of the bases. But we find out that they're taking it to the base to melt it, because they want to figure out how they're going to use this one pillar to find the other 12 pillars, so they can dig these pillars up and therefore untrap this thing and unleash it on the country. Daniel, I think, has realized when he sees the direction, because he's looking in the woods too, he sees that they're not going back to the base where they're supposed to be, safekeeping it like they promised. Even he goes back to Rose's house and he's like, Auntie, something bad is about to happen. That's where we see him come into the house, and Rose is in the house with Charlotte and Hank. Hank is able to get out because after he came from the woods, he went to the Hanlon's house under the guise that he looks like Leroy. All she really did was put him in a soldier suit, and because he's a black man, they're going to assume all of the black men look alike. Ronnie and Marge go to tell Lily about what happened, because mind you, Lily wasn't there. And they tell her that Rich is gone. They go back up to the sandbox to, get Rich's things. And of course, Marge is wearing the eye patch that Rich gave her. And she sees the airplane, and he was like, he never made it onto Main Street. And so they call Will. Mind you, Will is at home by himself, because his mama Charlotte then went to Rose's house with Hank, and his daddy is out there on the base. Mind you, his daddy is pissed the fuck off. Because I feel like Leroy really realizes now he has been a pawn this entire time. And he didn't listen to his wife. He didn't listen to his son. And he really didn't even listen to Dick Halloran when he was telling them, y'all need to leave this alone. Leroy's trying to make himself believe that he was a part of this greater good. And no, everything was a sacrificial lamb. He lost Paulie. Like, he is pissed. And he tries to go in and stop everything, pulls a gun out on Shaw. And the other guy, I can't remember the white man's name, but he comes behind him, pulls a gun out on Leroy. And they end up melting the thing. Melting the pillar. And so Frank Shaw tells the other white guy, make sure that Leroy does not leave that base, because Leroy knows everything, and Leroy is enraged because he does not want this thing to be unleashed onto Derry. That Frank Shaw actually wants to be unleashed onto Derry because he wants to scare everybody back into obedience, and because he claims that all these different movements is fracturing America and America's identity. Baby, that shit is so relevant. And how 2025, how they doing shit right now, trying to scare people into obedience. But the last scene we see is the kids call Will. Another thing, when they burn the pillar, mind you, Pennywise is asleep now. Dick Halloran tells them that the energy that he was feeling from the spirit, he didn't feel it anymore. It was like as if it went to sleep. Unbeknownst to him, it did, because the Augury, which was all those people that died, had fed it. All that fear and the lives lost of these kids. Even Leroy was like, Shaw, what about all the kids that's dying from this? And he was like, it'll be less children who die in car accidents. It was giving your boy CK. But what else did you talk about? Train of thought. So they are pretty much okay with these people dying as long as they can have this thing, this spirit. So we see Will is in the house talking to Ronnie and Lily. He thinks they call him on the phone to tell him that they went to the sandbox, and he hears Pennywise's voice over the phone. like, oh, he was a broken body or whatever. And Will is like, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of you. Lo and behold, Pennywise is in the house with Will on top of the motherfucking refrigerator. And Will is like, I'm tired. I'm not going to be scared. And he opens his mouth. And the same thing that he did to Ingrid, like, took over him with this, like, fire glow spirit and, like, lifts him up. And you see it take over his eyes. That happens to Will. I hope we don't lose Will, y'all. No, please. And that's another thing. When it happened to Ingrid, her ass was being put in an ambulance like this. And then when she saw the kids, her eyes moved. Dog, everybody's just a sacrificial lamb. This episode is very relevant to today.